And for more on the situation in South Sudan, I spoke a brief time ago with Pham, the director of the Atlantic Council's Africa Centre. So, Peter, these peace talks start in Ethiopia tomorrow. What are the prospects for an agreement?
Well, the problem with the peace talks are twofold. First, not all the parties to the conflict are represented there. Although Riek Machar, the former vice president, will be represented, it's not entirely clear that he's in full command of the so-called rebel forces. It's not sure who is in command of the White Army irregulars, and certainly Major General Peter Gadet, who controls the regular forces and probably is one of the more accomplished soldiers formerly in the South Sudanese military, is not being represented. So it's going to be a question of who isn't represented. The other question is going to be, can the peace talks occur while a number of the political leaders who were dismissed and subsequently imprisoned by the government in Juba remained prisoners?
Now, you warned when South Sudan became independent that seldom did a new state have so many disadvantages. Was this a crisis foretold?
This was a crisis that should have been foreseen and certainly was foretold by a number of analysts. But the international community, having invested so much in the referendum process and the independence of this new state, everyone tried to put the most positive gloss on it, overlooking very serious developmental and conflict challenges that were not addressed, as well as questions of accountability, and the corruption has just been enormous the last few years.
So is this really an ethnic problem or something else?
There's certainly an ethnic dimension that can't be denied, but more profoundly, it's a political crisis. A government that was elected in rather imperfect elections in 2011 that were glossed over. They've not gone to the polls since. We had the president in August of 2013 fire most of his government, including the vice presidents, ending any prospect of power sharing. And there's massive corruption. By the government's own admission, in the last few years, $4 billion and probably more went missing from just 75 government officials. So there's massive corruption, lack of service delivery, and increasingly a dictatorial slant to the government.
So did the US and the EU, which did so much to support the process leading to independence, ignore these warning signs?
Unfortunately, I think a lot of the debate up to independence and subsequent was led by activists and advocates who had their own agendas and perhaps were not really down in the weeds of what was really going on. And so a lot of signals were missed. And by looking at this purely in terms of black and white, North and South, they ignored the deep fissures in the South that remain to be addressed and which need to be addressed if there's going to be sustainable peace in this country.
Pham, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.